Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Mitrovich, the alternate historian, and with me today is my wife, Alana Mitrovich.
Hi, everybody. How's it going?
And we are going to talk about the Netflix show Stranger Things. And it's not exactly alternate history, so you don't have to tell me, but there are some parts of it I think an alternate historian can enjoy. Let's start off from the beginning. Alana, what did you think of Stranger Things?
I loved it. At the same time, I was very scared a little bit. I definitely had like the flashbacks of the 80s shows that my parents didn't want me watching because I was scared. For example, it looked a lot like E.T. or The Goonies, and Goonies is something I've never seen, and now...
You're not missing anything. I know a lot of people love The Goonies, but I'm probably going to say probably the most unpopular thing to say on this channel. I don't like The Goonies. It's a really overrated show. I don't understand... movie. I don't understand why people get so excited about it, but maybe I was just too old when I saw it. But anyway, sorry.
Well, either way, it reminded me of that look of those types of movies, and the fact that it was 8 times in a row of those types of movies made it pretty awesome. And then I was listening to another podcast review it, and I loved how the podcaster, I guess you can call him, said that it was like Steven Spielberg meets 2016 because you had the technology to do things that you didn't have back in the 80s.
So J.J. Abrams, essentially.
A little bit. Sure.
I got, well, those movies were there. For me, I got a lot of Stephen King in it, especially like a good Stephen King story. In many ways, it was very much like a Stephen King story. You had some great build-up, somewhat of a disappointing reveal, but still an overall good story. And we'll get all to that. And again, if you haven't watched the show yet, we will be spoiling things. So what is Stranger Things about? Well, Stranger Things is about these 4 kids. It starts off by, seeing them play Dungeons and Dragons, and they all go home, and one of them gets attacked by some sort of monster in the night and suddenly disappears. Now everyone, the whole town's freaking out. His mom's freaking out. His brother's freaking out. His friends want to try to find them, and they don't know where he is. So the friends try to find him in the middle of like a rainy night, and instead they find this girl named Eleven. And Eleven is apparently fled from a secret government research facility that was holding her. And she's a very special girl. She doesn't talk much, but she can read minds, move things with her own mind, and apparently communicate with people not only on other parts of the globe, but also on other Earths. And we're going more into the alternate history aspect of it. You see, this monster is from this place that is eventually called the Upside Down by the kids. It's a sort of like essentially a darker version of our own Earth. When you go in there, it looks like our Earth, except there's like ash and stuff floating around, and there's weird growth everywhere, and it's dark all the time. And that's where Will's being kept. The monster must have dragged him in there, but then he fled and escaped. Anywho, as the story goes on, the kids are trying to keep Eleven secret, while at the same time hoping to use her powers to find their friend. Meanwhile, the mom believes she can communicate with Will, and people think she's just crazy. And then meanwhile, the cop Hopper, he's searching for the kid, and he's taking the kid missing very seriously because he actually lost a child, and he's starting to believe that there might be a little bit more going on to this. And all the while too, you have the government agency who ran the lab attempting to cover everything up and find Eleven. And then there's also another subplot involving one of the kids, Mike's sister. Mike's the one who actually lets Eleven stay in his home and keeps it secret from his family. Very E.T.-esque. And Mike's sister, she's dealing with high school drama, like a boy she likes, yada, yada, yada. But her friend Barb is eventually taken by the monster, and she tries to find her as well, which causes her to go closer to Will's brother, Jonathan, as they both try to search for their missing people. And it all comes to a head, and a lot of stuff happens. We'll get all to all that. But, Lena, did I miss anything? Did I miss any important plot points I should have brought up?
Maybe this might not be a important plot point, so you might be like, forget it. But Barb's parents, where are they?
Yeah, they kind of they're not there.
They didn't care that their child went missing and the car was found abandoned and just all that. Really? really. I thought that was a little lame. But yeah, in terms of anything else, a major, Winona Ryder plays the mother of Will. Yeah. And she looks old.
Don't be so hard.
I think because I just watched what's it called? Making of American Quilt. That was what the book was called.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just watched that, and so she was probably in her 20s, 30s. She was young in that movie. And to see her now all of a sudden in this is the next time I've seen her, I was like, whoa.
Well, age aside, she was good.
Yeah, she
great. Was probably one of the better. I mean, like all the actors in the show were good. I didn't have any real major complaints. There were a couple of characters who were a little cliche for me, but when your entire movie, when your entire miniseries or show is just one big celebration of different tropes from a certain era of filmmaking, I guess I could excuse that because that's kind of what we come to see. But for the most part, a lot of characters were well done and had depth and were interesting, and even some of the more douchier characters, like there was this guy. What do we always call him? Like a McDouche or something like that.
The boyfriend, Steve. His name was Steve.
And he came
Douchey
off. But he came off as much kind of this douchey character, but. He did have like these moments of like where you sort of like sympathized with him. Like for example, when he attempts to go visit his girlfriend, Mike's sister, I can't remember her name now, but Nancy. There we go, Nancy. Yeah, and you already saw him like sneak through the window a couple of times, and so he tries to do it again, but sees her sitting on the bed with Jonathan, when Jonathan's kind of holding her. And the reason they're doing that is because they just had a run-in with the monster. They're afraid. They're just trying to comfort each other. But he takes that as cheating on her, and it's like you can. And then he does something really like shitty later in revenge. But at the same time, not like physical, like hurting her or anything, like spray painting something like she's a slut or something on town. And as much as you want to say like, well, that's a shitty thing to do, and it is, you can almost you can understand his reasoning. He's really hurt. He really thinks that his girlfriend's cheating on him.
Right. And as someone who teaches high school students, I'll tell you, the teenage brain just doesn't think, it just acts. It doesn't make, doesn't always make good decisions when emotions are high. So that was totally appropriate for a teenager to be doing, for him to automatically be like, revenge, and do that.
You saw him then later on realize, oh, what I did was really shitty. Mm-hmm. And he tried to make amends. Yeah. And in the process discovered that, oh, she wasn't cheating on me with Jonathan. She was actually apparently hunting a monster, because he eventually sees the monster. Yeah. He almost gets killed by it.
And they end up together in the end.
Which I thought was very interesting. I know you at first were kind of like, but it's like, here's the thing about the relationship between Jonathan and Nancy, which seemed that they're hinting at it. They were brought together and they got a better understanding of each other, but I don't think either one of them had the personality that that would make them a good couple. I mean, Nancy is very... Remember, Alana, you're only audio right now, so you making hand motions.
I'm looking at that saying, you and I are total opposites, so I don't know what you're thinking.
Well, we're total opposites who happen to be from the same socioeconomic class, who went to school together, who has the same religion,
I guess
lived in the same geographical location. Yeah, we had a lot of things in common. That being said, they were very different people, in terms of both their personalities, their interests, their likes. Nancy really was this suburban girl who wanted to be a suburban girl, and Jonathan did not want that. Jonathan wanted to get out there as fast as possible. So, yeah, and while Nancy might have a revengerous side, even Jonathan pointed out, it's like, you're just being rebellious like everybody else. And maybe maybe in the season 2, we'll find out Nancy really doesn't want to be the suburban girl, and maybe she wants to break out, or maybe she's like, yeah, that's me. But personally, I'm on the whole, that's me thing, and that's why she ended up with Steve, because Steve was more like her than Jonathan. That doesn't mean they can't be friends. They can't like her. They have this. They'll never be able to forget the fact that they hunted a goddamn monster. A literal monster that did not have a face. We'll get more into the monster though. But and it's like they'll never be able to completely get rid of that. So even if they're not like close friends, they'll always have that versus that thing to bring them together than anything else.
So the monster.
The monster was scary when you didn't see him.
Yes, I thought yes, but then as soon as you saw him, you were like, oh.
Yeah, it's very Jaws.
It was, and he almost, like, every time I hear him, even though I haven't seen the movie Alien, I've seen parts of Alien, because my dad had it. I've been on the ride at Disney World, and it sounded like him, but it didn't obviously look like Alien, and so, like, I don't know, the whole thing, it was just, he was...
Why do you say him? How do you know it's a male?
I don't know.
Well, technically,
just
it's a
did.
drone, I guess you would say.
Well,
but
I feel like its bark was worse than its bite when it came to looking at it.
yeah, I mean, I've read a lot in watch reviews on this, just because I want to hear what other people are thinking. And a common complaint people have, and probably the only real complaint a lot of people have, besides an over reliance on the tropes of the '80s films, was the fact that the monster didn't really look all that imaginative. It looks like a lot of other monsters you've seen. And also more importantly, like I was saying the Jaws earlier, it's like it really is like Jaws. If you watch Jaws now, it is great build up, great suspense, but then if you really actually, when you really finally get to see the shark and see it more often than usual, the shark looks stupid. It really does. It does not. The shark does not hold up. It looks like the shark from the ride at Universal Studios,
which is a getting old ride.
Which I don't think they actually use anymore, do they?
I don't know. I mean, last time I was on that ride, I was in high school, so let's not even begin how many years ago that was.
Anywho, but it was definitely, the monster was great when you didn't see it, when it was just in the background, when you only caught glimpses of it. That was when the monster was at its best. But we kind of have to, when we talk about the monster, we finally got to talk about the part where the alternate history comes in. So I talked a little bit more about the Upside Down, where the monster is from. The monster, 11 at one point, while she was still in the lab, there was flashbacks, and she apparently accidentally contacted the monster when she was literally using her telepathic powers to listen to a Russian guy speak. This was the 80s, and the Cold War was still going on, spy stuff. Right. We'll get onto that more, too. But at the same time, and at one point, they decided to make direct contact, go try to find the monster, and she did, and the monster literally broke a hole into our reality from the Upside Down. Again, I just kind of describe the Upside Down as being a sort of decayed, ruined version of our own world. In fact, when characters go in there, later Hop and the Will's mom actually go into the world. They have to convince the government to let them to go look for Will, and they walk around, the houses and the streets and everything like that. Everything's just dark and
different, but not different. And they also have to wear suits. They can't breathe the atmosphere that's there.
Yeah, it's definitely poisonous, because Will doesn't have one when he's
right. And the kids didn't have one, and they survived.
What kids?
Nancy and Jonathan.
Oh yeah, they did go in there.
They survived.
Sorry. When I think kids, I think it was the four.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I meant teenagers.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, they didn't breathe either. Like, they were fine. They didn't need the breathing masks. So it was probably safer in the long run for them to be in suits and stuff like that. But maybe it wouldn't kill, but it would make things difficult.
Okay, and but here's the thing, the kids, Will's friends, Mike and the other two, I can't think of their names now either. No, Toothless, and that anywho, they are trying to, they eventually kind of stumble on the idea of the Upside Down, because 11 explains to them, because the first time they try to use her mind to find Will, and she leads them to Will's house, and they're like, they don't understand, blah, blah, blah. But it turned out, we find out that Will is hiding in the alternate version of the house, and she's like, he's here, but she doesn't really know how to explain the idea of a parallel dimension, because this parallel dimension has Will's house in it, where he's hiding from the monster. And they eventually learn about this and talk to their science teacher, who explains the many worlds theory. And I thought he did a pretty good analogy. Like, he described, like, how do I describe this? There was like, we are like an acrobat walking on a trapeze. We can only walk on top of it, because if we try to walk on the side or underneath it, we'll fall off. But he also kind of used like the flea. A flea, however, can move around the sides and the box because it can stick on there. And the flea is obviously a metaphor for the monster. The monster being able to suddenly form portals into our timeline from ours. And this might be just personal headcanon, so you can disagree with me all you want. But here's my theory about what the Upside Down is. My theory is the Upside Down is an alternate timeline, and here's where the alternate history part of the show gets into it, is an alternate timeline of our, essentially, the 1980s Earth from Stranger Things. It's probably indistinguishable from our own. If there's any change, it's so slight we probably wouldn't even notice it, except something happened. The monster, or the monsters, or whatever.
Yeah, we don't know if he's alone. We've only seen him alone, but
anywho, might have come and have sort of just poisoned this world. I know a lot of people I've seen, a lot of reviews and things have said, like, oh, it must be an alien. But personally, I think it actually might be from another alternate timeline as well. Some so divergent that literally evolution took a completely different path, created this monster that, from its point of view, just colonized the world and terraformed it to make it better, to make it a place where it can live. And I think in the show you start seeing it trying to do the same with our world. Well, anyway, I got something I want to share with Elena, so I'm gonna kind of cut to the end. Long story short, Hop and the mom go in, get Will out of there. The boys protect Eleven from the government, but what really does it is the monster ends up breaking into the school where they're hiding Eleven, kills a bunch of the guards, and yeah, I'm running through the plot because even though we are spoiling it, we still think you should go watch it. 11 ends up taking on the monster, but sacrifices herself in the process, and at the end of it, there's a lot of weird stuff, and we're going to talk about it all right now. So, Elena, I actually wrote down a bunch of questions I saw that a lot of people
great.
have. So, I think we've already talked about some.
Can I point out one thing, though?
What?
Going back to when the teacher was explaining to the kids about what's up, the upside down and all that kind of stuff and the different worlds. This is total major. This made me laugh because it's like they were able to call their teacher at home, which makes me laugh because like there's no internet or anything like that. I just thought that was funny that like they got to go on a phone. They got to use a phone book and find and call their teacher at home. And, now with social media and stuff like that, our teachers are always like, gotta hide ourselves and stuff like that. I just thought that was really funny. They didn't even need the internet.
Well, we'll talk about the teacher because there's some questions about him. So the first off, the question we have to ask is what happened to Will in the Upside Down? Now, in the show, Will, it's hiding and somehow finding ways to communicate, but he's hiding. But like near the end of the seventh episode, we see him actually get captured by the monster, and when Hop and his mom go in to rescue him, they find him like covered in his shit, and he's got like this tentacle down his mouth, and it's weird.
So
and it's just
gross.
like, oh God, what happened to him? And then later, in literally like the last scene, he gets up from dinner because he's feeling sick. He goes to the bathroom. He literally throws up a slug, which goes into the drain of the sink. And then there's a moment where like reality, for lack of a better term, flickers, and suddenly the bathroom he's in changes to the bathroom of Upside Down and then back. So, Elena, what do you think happened to him?
I'm almost wondering if something, I want to say maybe there's something reproductive going on.
Reproductive? You mean the alien had sex with him, essentially?
Not necessarily had sex with him, because there's animals that have...
This is a PG-13, I think,
I understand that, Matt. But what I'm trying to say is there something where it needs to, like, almost like how fish eggs live and then they,
So is this the
outside.
alien sort of attached, the alien essentially implanted something inside of him?
Yeah.
But then why does he seem to be able to now move back and forth without any help between the Upside Down and our world? Because that's what we saw. We saw it to reality flicker. We saw him go into the other room. So did it implant him, or is it literally changing him? Is he becoming a monster?
I don't know, but I feel like there has to be, because he was the one and only monster, I feel like there needs to be some sort of way that the monster creates more monsters. And I don't know if this is me being a child development teacher. This is my field. This is what I think about. But I'm wondering, like, where's his friends? Where's its mother? Where did it come from? How can it have more kids? Like, there's got to be more than one. Isn't he lonely? Like, those are the things I'm thinking of. And so I'm thinking there has to be some reason of him capturing it, other than it's for food or some sort of host reproductive purpose.
Yeah, because we saw him capture Barb, and it's pretty clear that the monster ate Barb. And a lot of people have actually been upset.
Parts of Barb.
No, parts of Barb, fine.
A
lot of people have actually been kind of upset by that, and that's kind of one of the next things I'm talking about. Because they're like, why did Barb get killed and not Will? And there's always been a lot of like the issues about women being used as props. Their characters are essentially props. They're just there to die so that they can move the story along, to give the main character, the main male character, something to do.
Well, it's just like always like the rules in Scream, like the virgin dies, don't turn around and
The
look
virgin
back.
doesn't die in Scream. The virgin lives. That's
or
the,
whatever
that's
it
the
is,
trope.
like those kinds of things.
The Barb was, yeah, but here's the thing,
and
Barb
is a prop.
But
it's not acceptable. But
there's
it's
more than that. There's a sexist angle. It's like,
Yeah.
why did the woman character have got pulled and have to die, but not the male character?
Again, I just wonder where Barb's parents were. How come they didn't care about her?
So you're not bothered by that. You don't
I'm
see a
totally bothered
sexist
by it, but I
angle?
don't have an answer. But I am bothered by it. I would agree with anyone else who has questioned it that it doesn't seem right, and this was a loophole or something they screwed up on not talking about, or they messed up with.
Okay, so another question is what was happening at the facility where 11 was kept? It was run by like a Dr. Benner or something like that, Branner. Technically it was under the Department of Energy, which is interesting. I guess being the 80s, and there was this backlash against government regulation and everything like that. So having the government be the bad guy is kind of funny, even though you but I won't go into politics. That being said, what exactly do you think they were trying to do?
Well, I'm starting to think there was that one time where they visited the woman who wasn't speaking.
Yeah.
That's Eleven's mom.
Well, yeah, that's what's strongly implied to be Eleven's mom.
It's definitely Eleven's mom. And they talked about how this woman... Sorry, I need to sneeze.
They do meet this woman called 11, who the woman called Jane, who they assume is 11's mother, because apparently, from what we learned, like there was this testing done with LSD that Dr. Brenner was doing, and all these, like, they just put on these mind-altering drugs, all these subjects, and they then had tests to see if they, their mind was altered, whether they can do crazy stuff. The difference was that Jane's mom was pregnant with Jane, or 11, and so the baby actually could do stuff. And they say that, Jane accused the government of stealing her baby, and although the official record is there was a miscarriage after 3 months, and she denied that, blah, blah. Turns out she was right. The government really did steal her kid and is using her as this, essentially an X-Men, for lack of a better term.
Right. So I'm thinking...
But what were they trying to do?
I think they were trying to... I think they knew about the monster and they didn't know how to reach... No?
They didn't know until after 11...
Found it?
Yeah. So what were they trying to do? Answer the question.
Why do I have to answer? Why do you
because
assume I know the
bringing
answer?
These questions.
Why do you assume I know the answer?
I don't want to know the answer. I want to know what you think is the answer.
I think they were experimenting on her, and they discovered this.
What were they trying? Why were they
find out what she was capable of?
No. Okay, let's try this again.
I'm not understanding what you're asking me, or why you're asking me
what
this.
What was the whole point of the program? Why were they using drugs on people? Why did they suddenly decide to keep this girl? What did they hope to do with her? Don't say find the monster. They didn't even know the monster. I want to know what you think you know.
I don't have a thing. Theory. I just thought they were experimenting on her.
For what reason?
I don't know.
There has to be at least a reason.
Then maybe you know the reason.
What do you think the reason is? Don't tell me what to know. What do you think? You must have watched the show.
I think they were bad people, not caring about what they did with her. They stole her from her mother. And I think that they were experimenting on her because they found that she had abilities.
What?
They wanted to see what
they could do with her.
Turn her into an army. I don't know.
Okay, before they even knew 11 existed, what were they hoping to accomplish?
I'm not sure.
So what did you think? I
didn't think.
All right.
What did you think?
Here's what I think. I think there is supposed to be espionage because there was that scene where they were using 11 to literally listen to a guy in Russia. Maybe because of her actual abilities in telekinesis, they hoped to use her as a weapon as well. I don't know.
I said an army of her.
I mean, maybe they thought somehow there was some sort of mind-altering drugs. I don't know. Definitely, though, they were trying to do something involving the 1980s Cold War. Because, for a time period where we didn't like government regulations and entities like the Department of Energy or the EPA from Ghostbusters were looked down upon, we sure had no problem spending a ton of money on weapons that we don't need or don't use anymore. And we still have that mindset even today. So that's my politics for now. Just a very odd... 80s were a really odd time. Okay, here's an interesting question then. Who do you think 11's father is? Because,
she kept calling the scientist Papa.
But is that actually the father?
I doubt it.
Or he was just a father figure? Because for a while, I thought, when I found out that, Hop's daughter had died, I thought, oh, it's going to be 11.
Yeah, at first I thought Hop's daughter didn't truly die, but went missing or might have been dead or something like that, and he didn't know the truth. Mm-hmm. But it turns out we do see her pass away. Yeah. So that theory got squashed. So now I'm kind of am walking away not quite sure.
I did see something online though that because
don't ruin it.
No. This is all again just theories. Okay. When they were in the last episode, when they went into the Upside Down and they went into Will's fort where he was hiding.
Yeah.
He picked up that bunny rabbit or doll or whatever that his kid had. So why is that rabbit there? Think about that for a second. There's been a lot of speculation about that. But anywho, we don't want to talk too much about Hop because we don't think Hop's the father, but someone has to be the father. Now, it's possible we don't know who the father is. They haven't shown up in the show. It's possible that the father may come up in season 2, if they make a season 2. I don't think there's actually been any official word yet from Netflix.
They did leave it with openness, obviously.
Yeah. So it's a possibility that if that's something season 2 is going to have to do is say, like, is it just the drugs that the mom was on, or is there something more? Was there some genetic link that sort of worked her out? So
I get to ask that question because I really have no idea. The next one. Who is 1 through 10? I thought that the whole time.
Yeah, it seems to be implied that if there is an 11 and they actually 11's called 11 because there's actually a tattoo with the number 11
Yeah, she didn't have a name until until Michael met her, and then he was like, well, I'll call you Al because I can't call you a number.
All right. But it kind of implies, like, if there's an 11, where's 1 through 10?
Yeah.
And are they just kids, or are they like some of the earlier adult subjects they were experimenting on? Personally, I'm hoping it's more people who had abilities, but I doubt it because it didn't seem like anything else was going on except 11.
Or did 1 through 10 not survive it?
It's possible. I think it... I don't know. I have no idea. Speaking about 11, what happened to 11? I mentioned earlier in the show that in the last episode she killed the monster and in the process killed herself. But then later on, like in one of the few last scenes, you see Hop going out into the middle of the woods with some food, including some Eggos, which throughout the show, one of the things that 11 loves, is Eggos. So and then he just starts to put it in a box in the middle of the woods and then just walks away. And it kind of makes you wonder, it's like, why is he doing that? Is 11 out there somewhere? Is she maybe, when she destroyed the monster...
Did she turn into the monster? Another monster?
I don't think so.
Because that monster had legs and arms like humans.
Well, when she killed the monster, the kind of was this blinding white light that kind of covered her. I'm thinking that she was sent into another timeline because
outside of the monster, a third time, a different timeline.
Or upside down. Maybe she's in the upside down one right now, finding a way to survive. I don't know, but that's a possibility. I mean, you have this creature that is literally unstuck in time that essentially can go sideways whenever he wants, whether it's just to hunt or to whatever. And when you think about something like that, I don't know how that works, but think about what something like that just gets destroyed. For all we know, it created some sort of portal. One last portal that swallowed 11, and maybe it went back to where he originally came from, or maybe it's there's some random location, which if it is some random location, they're going to really have some fun with alternate history, then great. I would love to see them tackle like one of those 1980s nuclear war films, or that'd be really awesome. If you're going to talk about tropes, do it the day after. That'd be really cool. So another question is the doctor who ran the lab, the Dr. Brenner, did he actually die? Because you see him get sort of tackled by the monster.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I really like him. He was very likable.
I know a lot of people says like you don't really know a character is dead until you see the
him
body.
Die. Yeah, I mean, yeah, because it's totally like.
But
the whole Game of Thrones thing, they didn't burn him yet. So
you would think that if he was still alive, he would have somehow punished the people who kept 11 from him. So I'm really doubtful that he's alive, but it's something that a lot of people have questioned. Here's a question. Go back to the teacher who was able... Pretty much anytime the kids had a scientific question, they would call his teacher Mr. Clark, and he would just answer everything. And he was the one who explained the whole, many worlds theory to them, and the whole,
Mind you, they're, 5th graders.
Yeah, they're pretty young.
I mean, they're playing with toys and stuff. They're young.
Here's the thing, though. I know he's a science teacher, but no offense to any science teachers who might listen to this channel or watch this channel. How many science teachers know enough about... It wasn't just a many world theory, but he even told them how to actually make sensory deprivation tank. It's like, how many science teachers really know how to make that? I mean, I understand this was before the age of Google, and you can type it in, and I'm sure if I typed in how to make a sensory deprivation tank, I could probably make one with stuff I have in my own house. But the point is, did he know how to make that?
Because, and again, this is the 80s, but there are, there's this spa, for example, in Naperville, where you can lay in a tub and you, float, and it's supposed to, take you out of your senses. It's supposed to be stress relieving and stuff like that. And so maybe this is more common knowledge than we know.
No. I don't think it's common knowledge, especially in the 80s, especially when someone wasn't going to that kind of field. Just because it exists. I know sensory deprivation tanks exist, but that doesn't mean I can go next door to my neighbors and ask them how to make a sensory deprivation tank.
We can put one in our tub.
My point is, how did this high school science teacher in the middle of rural Indiana know how to make a sensory deprivation tank?
I don't know. I'm not going to insult teachers.
Too smart, and I'm not insulting teachers. I just think I felt them to be a little too smart. If you're a science teacher who listens to this or watches this channel, please tell me that this is something you learned becoming a science teacher, because I would
could he have had a job before he was a teacher? Because I know a lot of teachers.
But what kind of job was that?
I know
what kind of job where you make a sensory deprivation tank?
I don't know. I just
remember the only person we saw who made a sensory deprivation tank in the show was the evil government agency.
Okay.
So was Mr. Clark... What did Mr. Clark do before he became a science teacher is what I'm trying to say.
I was going to say, I already called BS on the fact that they were able to call him at home in general, so...
Fair enough. Another thing, in the last episode, when Will is brought back, he's in the hospital, and it seems like it's a happy ending. The kids are there, they're talking to him. Hop leaves, gets a smoke, and as he's walking away, this black, unmarked car pulls up. You don't hear him say anything. He someone steps out and opens the door to the passenger seat for him. And he just sort of looks. You could tell he's not happy about this, but he doesn't say anything. Just walks in, and then it's kind of fast forward a month later to like Christmas, and he's just a cop again, doing that weird thing in the woods. What happened? Where did he go? Who did he talk to?
That's an opening for second season.
Do you have any theories? At least a personal headcanon. There must have been something you saw.
I guess maybe there'd be something along the lines of either people that were involved still with what was going on in that experiment and government agency that they're going to debrief him.
Yeah.
Or and threaten him with sharing, or they wanted to know what they saw, what him and Winona Ryder's character saw in the Upside Down in detail.
It's possible, but you don't see Winona Ryder character go through that.
Well, her son is in the hospital.
It's an evil government agency that experimented on children.
No, I'm wondering if like the rest of the government now want to see or something. You know what I'm saying?
But it's the same government that also had the agency.
I don't know, man. I'm just.
Why
guessing.
would they not?
I don't know why. You asked me. I don't know.
That's why I'm
my
having
answer.
This discussion. I want you to defend.
What's your answer?
Theory.
I don't have a defense.
I do think it's a government agency. Probably someone who was overseeing what was happening at the laboratory, and maybe they just want to, find out what happened. And say, don't talk. But maybe they also told him like we might need you again because you went in and survived. Who knows? It's just something to think about. And finally, what happened to the gate? Because when the monster first came in, it created this sort of like hole in the wall in the basement, for lack of a better term.
I don't think it's closed.
You don't think it's closed? You don't think it closed?
Oh, absolutely
after the monster
not.
died?
Because of that flash, that flash of the change with Will and things like that. I think that gate's opening bigger.
It's possible. I think they even mentioned that in the show. I can't remember which character brought that up, but they mentioned that could be getting bigger. And maybe that's what
suck us all in.
Maybe that's what the government is. They don't have time to punish these people who found out because they have a giant hole from an alternate dimension slowly swallowing their facility, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be very difficult to hide eventually. Then again, it seemed like the monster could close his own holes, and I almost got to think that if the monster died, the holes that it would still be.
The holes seem like little doors, almost like. I know that.
But it created the big door too, the original door it followed in on. So maybe that closed too, because it did seem as they kept going back to the room where the hole was originally open, the gate. It did seem like the outside, the black tendrils were getting covering more and more of the room.
Yeah.
So it is possible that it is getting bigger, but whether or not it closed when the monster died is still left
Can
open.
I just say that if I was Winona Ryder's character with those boys and all that craziness happened in my house, I'd be moving.
Yeah, well, she didn't seem like she had a lot of money. She lived on the outskirts of town.
I don't care. If all that went down, I'm sure that town would have done as much as they could to help her move. Okay? Peace out. Move into a different house. Build her a new house. Something. Okay? Like, they seem like a nice small town, and the cops seem to... Well,
there's a lot of douchey people in there.
Well, they were a small town,
and the cops were pretty incompetent. Only Hop. Yeah, but Hop was also, as they mentioned a lot of times, from the big city, so he was used to a different type of policing. When you're in a small town where nothing happens...
I'm just saying, there's no way I would live in that house after the shit that went on there. Okay? Not happening. Especially if I was that kid.
Well, again, the Will and his mom and his brother, Jonathan, they didn't seem like they had a lot of money. So you can say about how, like, I'm not going to do it, but it's like, well, if I don't have enough money to buy a new home, and if I'm not going to get any money from my current house... Like, where exactly can I go?
I don't care. That was crazy what went down in that house.
Sure.
No way. Board it up, walk away.
Oh, because the mom was having these issues where she was talking to Will, and at one point while she was trying to communicate with Will, the monster broke in and tried to get her. And, Nancy and Jonathan, when they attempted to trap the monster, they did it at Jonathan's house where they set up a bear trap. They even tried to set the monster on fire. And...
she put a hole in the wall at one point that led to the outside. She painted random things in places, and
it was
pigs. It was a mess, and I don't blame her for it. But I'm just saying, I'd be moving out.
So we're running a little long, so we're just gonna finish it up. In my opinion, Stranger Things is a great series. It really sort of it's not. Some people like dismiss it as a ripoff of all those '80s kind of movies.
So what? We're in a period of nostalgia in this world.
But that was it. A trope can, if used wrong, can become a cliche. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't use tropes at all. And I think the people who made it, the Duffer Brothers, you could tell they were really fans, and they wanted to make a homage to the movies that they probably loved. And yeah, maybe they overused certain tropes, but that was the whole point of the show, was to do that.
And we haven't seen anything like this in a while.
We haven't. Who's ever tried to do something like this?
You know, even now, even you and I, what we've been watching even has been different. So no, I liked it. I had a good time. You and I, you're not a binge watching person.
No, I'm not.
And I got you to watch at least 2 episodes in a row each time.
Yeah, pretty
maybe
much.
3 one time.
We definitely under a week. We finished all 8 episodes
because we just couldn't stop.
I liked the fact that it was only 8 episodes. It was short. It was nice. And I really look forward to Series 2 if they actually make it. Again, I don't think there's anything official from Netflix, but I know a lot of people who are involved in the show want Series 2 to come.
And they did leave it open.
They definitely leave it open, but I don't know if I want that. I mean, I talked a little bit on Facebook. I kind of would rather have it just be left a little ambiguous about the ending, and instead, like, maybe have, like, sort of, like, the next like, series to be completely different characters, completely different setting, completely different story, but there might be, like, a reference here or there to the events that happen.
Almost like, maybe I'm quoting this wrong, but like Twilight or something, where like, or not Twilight.
Twilight?
No, stop. Not Twilight. What's that show that your sister watches? It's scary.
What's the American Horror Story?
Yes, where they use sometimes the same actors and things like that.
No, I don't want that.
But they change the same story and it's completely different location. Everything's different. No, I think it'd be funny.
I don't want to use the same actors. You get different actors, different
Those kids
location.
Were great.
True, but I'd rather have it just be like this expanded universe. Like there's a different small town dealing with some shit, and there might be a reference or two, and maybe a character from the first series might make a cameo, but for the most part, it's a completely new story. Because the fact of the matter is, it's hard to make a good sequel.
If something was that good,
yeah. And sometimes, I don't know. It doesn't mean that it couldn't do a good story with those characters, but I sort of would like them to. There's a lot of other 80s tropes they can do. And I feel like if you're just going to be weird and creepy, go be weird and creepy in some other location. The Midwest is great, but let's do some scary story in the South or some scary story in Alaska during like one of their winters where there's no light. That'd be pretty cool. So, anywho, definitely strong recommendation especially for an alternate historian. Lena, recommendation for you too?
Yes, I enjoyed it. I would say it's not kid friendly though.
No, it's PG-13.
Yeah.
It's when PG-13 meant something.
Yes.
So this is definitely, even though there is kids in there.
If your kids are afraid of monsters or afraid of the dark.
Or you don't want to hear like swearing.
Or there was some cussing. There was no nudity.
There's no nudity, but there's definitely some
reference to sexual content. Yeah, sexual activity, and then cussing, even by the kids.
Yeah. So this is definitely not for small kids, but it's probably fine for your tween or your teenager. I think we're about ready to wrap up. Any last words?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. Well, that's what we thought about Stranger Things. I'm Matt Mitrovich, the alternate historian. This is Elena Mitrovich. Say hi or bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I screwed that up. Bye, everybody. Oh, and one more thing. Elena and I are adopting, and we are currently in the process of raising funds for the adoption. I will have a link to our GoFundMe page in the notes below. So if you guys feel like donating, please do so, and you can find the link there. So this is Matt officially signing off. Bye.